The sixth process of the Build, Acquire and Implement domain, called Manage Changes, has 4 practices. The first practice is to evaluate and prioritize change requests. From a RACI charts perspective, the entities that are responsible include the business process owners, the Chief Information Officer, and several IT heads and managers. The entity that is held accountable is the business executives. The practice receives several inputs that include the configured solution components from the BAI3 process, the approved service requests from the DSS2 process, and the approved changes to plans from the DSS4 process. It generates 3 outputs, which are the impact assessments to be used internally, the approved requests for change to be used by the BAI7 process, and the change plan and schedule to be used by the BAI7 process. The activities involved in this practice include formalizing change requests and ensuring that they go through the request management process only. All change requests should be grouped into categories such as infrastructure, network, application systems, or operating systems. The requests should then be prioritized based on the business requirements. All requests should be evaluated and an impact analysis should be performed, identifying the associated risks and any security or legal implications. Changes should then be approved by the relevant parties, then planned for implementation. The second practice is to manage emergency changes. The entities that are responsible are the Chief Information Officer, the head of IT development, and the head of IT operations. The entity that is held accountable is the business executives. The practice receives no inputs, but generates 1 output, which is the post-implementation review of emergency changes to be used internally. The activities involved in this practice include establishing procedures to define, assess, approve, and record emergency changes. All the necessary arrangements for the changes should be managed and provided until the changes have been applied. The emergency changes should be monitored, and post-implementation reviews should be conducted. If any problems are detected, corrective actions should be implemented. The third practice is to track and report change status. The entities that are responsible are the business process owners, and several IT heads and managers. The entity that is held accountable is the Chief Information Officer. The practice receives 1 input, which is the record of all approved and applied change requests from the BAI3 process. It generates 1 output, which is the change request status reports to be used by the BAI1 and 10 processes. The activities involved in this practice include maintaining the request category during the tracking process. Change status reports should be generated to enable the management to monitor the status of changes, and to have an audit trail for tracking purposes. Open changes should be monitored to ensure that they are closed in a timely fashion. The fourth and last practice is to close and document the changes. The entities that are responsible include the business process owners, the project management office, and the Chief Information Officer. The entity that is held accountable is the business executives. The practice receives no inputs, but generates 1 output, which is the change documentation to be used internally. The activities involved in this practice include ensuring that changes to documentations are included within the change management procedure. The documentation retention period for changes should be defined. Other sources that provide insights into this process include the ISO 20000 standard, and the ITIL framework.